Welcome to the WWH show. This is a show that asks a series of why, what, and how questions on topics that have national, regional, and global significance and implications. Today we have such a topic to talk about: why exploring the IT opportunities in the DMV area. DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. I'm excited to discuss this important topic for many of you with H.Y. Griffin. She has served as a facilitator, instructor, and coach in education, training, and community building organizations for 7 years. Griffin enjoys supporting adults transition into new career opportunities and producing events that foster community and learning. Currently, Griffin leads career development, professionalism, training, and admissions for Per Scholas, an IT certification training nonprofit organization. Griffin, thank you very much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation with you about exploring the opportunities that are available to many of our audience in the DC metro area.
Absolutely, as am I.
Why should we explore the IT opportunities that we have in the DC metro area?
Well, there are virtually endless opportunities that involve technology in terms of careers. Increasingly, statistics are showing whether they're from the Department of Labor or the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that jobs require technology. So whether you are working in retail and banking, in customer service positions, warehousing, all of these positions are transitioning to require technology. If you think about going to a restaurant, you might see a person with a handheld point of sale device. Going to do inventory, same thing, right? So as these jobs become more technology rich, the workforce has to skill up. We have to make sure that we have the skills that are necessary for 21st century jobs.
That means virtually there is no one single organization that doesn't use information technology. So if I were, let's say, a person looking for career shift or looking for a job, obviously IT comes to picture.
Sure.
Whether I am in a human resource, accountant, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So as much as IT is required to any field of studies, the need for people who support that system is increasing.
Absolutely.
Especially in the DC metro area.
Absolutely. We have students or applicants who've come to Per Scholas who are looking for IT jobs, but they've been looking specifically with information technology companies. The thing is, there are IT jobs in all companies, as you're saying, whether that's in help desk or technology support, whether that's in connecting people with IT opportunities within a company. IT is everywhere. So technology, as we see technology everywhere, we also have technology jobs everywhere.
So Per Scholas, understanding the need, opened a regional office here in the DC metro area. What's the mission of Per Scholas, or why Per Scholas exists?
Sure, I can answer both questions for you. So Per Scholas' mission is to break the cycle of poverty by providing education and access through technology. So we've done this a number of ways for a number of years now, for about 20 years. We started out in the South Bronx, and so we've served over 5,000 individuals. Most of those have been New Yorkers because we've been in the Bronx for so long. We started growing in the last couple of years to Cincinnati, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, the National Capital Region based in Silver Spring, and Dallas, Texas as well. We'll also be in Atlanta sometime soon, either late this year or early next year. But really our programs have existed to make sure that we're filling this gap. So we act as a kind of bridge between talented and skilled community members and employers who are looking for talented and skilled individuals to meet their workforce needs.
So my next question is why you created a program that mixes both hardware and software, soft skills and hard skills.
Sure.
You know, to give an information to our audience that I'm a technical trainer there. I know this organization, a great organization, and there have been many Ethiopians benefited from this program. That's why I invited Griffin to talk more about the organization and the opportunities that are available so that our community, Ethiopians, may consider making a shift to the IT profession. If they are already, in the IT field, they may consider to come and get some trainings and some support in terms of developing their soft skills. So I know the program. So one of the uniqueness of this program is having those both angles, like the technical angle and the soft skill angle. So would you please tell us why you decided to have that kind of program?
Sure. So Per Scholas' program exists to make sure that folks are ready for work. Work does not just require technical skills. You know this as a person with a technical background. You also have exquisite communication skills. You have exquisite problem-solving skills. This is what we hope for. We aspire essentially, AZ, for our students to be like you, to be people who can go into any employer, any opportunity, and really not just show their technical prowess or technical know-how, but be able to work with people. When we're looking for candidates for our training, we're looking not just at a person's technical background or their passion. We want to know, can this person work with people? Do they have some customer service experience? And that's what employers are looking for too. It's not just a matter of having certifications or degrees or having even experience working in IT. It's really important that qualified individuals also have the ability to work with a difficult customer. So that's what we really focus on in career development. That's the section that I facilitate of the training. And so the career development training that I facilitate has a few different components. There's a professionalism element where folks are starting to better understand how they can present their most professional self. That's going to look different from you to me to the next person. But really, what are some of the key elements of presenting oneself professionally? Communication, presentation, respecting people, right? So all of these are elements of the professionalism training. We also want to make sure that folks have an understanding of what their opportunities are. So doing some mapping, some planning for yourself in your own career, and then getting a lay of the land, understanding what are some of the job opportunities that exist in IT or IT positions in the variety of companies that are in our DC area, DC metropolitan area. And then making sure that you know how to apply for those jobs and secure those. So there's a lot involved in career development, but really, technical skills without those soft skills doesn't really get you anywhere. Even if you have experience, even if you have degrees, it only takes you so far. So we want to make sure that anyone who comes through Per Scholas is prepared for the realities of the workplace.
I have technical skills as a veterinarian, as a computer science guy. I also once worked as a researcher, and I have seen the importance of soft skill because many of my colleagues, they are experts when it comes to their technical skills. So they think, their profession, their career, can achieve heights if they are good at what they do. Many of them, they miss the importance of the soft skill.
Right.
So you see some struggles. I know our students, they don't struggle because you provide the career development aspect of it. I reinforce what you teach in my technical training to make sure that my students know the importance of soft skill, not just the technical skill. So I want you to just shed, some light in terms of what kind of feedback have you got from your partners, because we equip them not only technically, but in terms of communication, team building, conflict resolution, handling change, and so on. What kind of feedback have you got from the people who hired your students?
We've gotten great feedback. It's always exciting to hear about a partnership developing over time. So we've had some of our employer partners come to us, and initially in the relationship, they're really taking a chance. They don't know what the result is going to be of hiring someone who's coming from Per Scholas. But oftentimes from that initial investment, that initial opportunity, they're able to see the performance of our graduates. We've had one employer partner in particular who's based in Maryland, and they've actually stopped doing searches entirely.
Wow.
Right. So essentially it's a small company.
So they just want to...
Exactly. They come straight to us. They know what our schedule is. They know when our classes are going to be ending. And we invited the owner of the company in when we were doing an admissions process for one of the candidates. We wanted to make sure that he was going to have strong opportunities for employment after training. The employer partner came in, did an interview with the candidate, and then actually before he left, he said, I really want to hire this guy right now.
Wow.
But I totally understand the value that Per Scholas adds to an individual's experience, right? Getting those soft skills, making sure that a person has the certifications and the recent fresh knowledge of technology. makes it so that a person is going to be even more capable. So he said, I'll be ready. When this person graduates from training, what is it, November 20th, when this person graduates, I will be ready to hire him.
Wow.
Right? And so we've had other individuals, other companies come to us and say the same thing after they've worked with us, after they've taken on a number of Per Scholas graduates. We have another employer partner who has hired, at this point, I want to say 9 of our graduates. And if you think about it, that's roughly 10% of all of the graduates that we've had since we opened our doors last year. So they really believe in what Per Scholas graduates can do.
I want to emphasize one thing here, because we have also 1 or 2, I believe, that where they were good in their technical skills, they went to the corporate world, but they were let go because they didn't have the soft skill it takes to maintain and retain their job. So would you mind to give us, without mentioning a name, would you please give us, because I want our audience to understand that we may have audience, accountants, doctors, engineers, IT people, and so on and so forth from various professions. I want them to understand that sometimes we lose jobs not because we are poor technically. We lose jobs because we don't have the soft skills, like the emotional intelligence, the ability to connect with people and communicate, the ability to work with team, the ability also to understand the needs and aspirations of other people, and so on and so forth. Would you mind to give us a couple of stories, or just one?
Absolutely. We've had a few individuals, a handful, who've really struggled. Being in an environment as accelerated as the training is, it's an 8-week training currently. It will be 10 weeks next year. So being in an environment where it's an accelerated training, it's a little bit high stakes, right? People are coming in, it's a pressure-filled environment. We do our best to provide a high level of support because we do have these high expectations for our students. There are sometimes individuals, however, who have struggled in the past with communicating with colleagues, or have you've seen it, I've seen it, even a little bit of distrust of authority, and who naturally come in anticipating, I don't trust this guy, or I don't trust this person when they're working with either of us or any of our team members. And that's a human response, right? Some individuals feel that way in various environments. The challenge is, how do you break? So if you have in the past lost jobs because you were not able to work with authority figures, or you've lost jobs because you were not able to resolve conflicts peaceably or without creating disruptions, then that problem needs to be resolved, right?
Yes.
So we have certainly had some individuals. We had an individual who really had a difficult time being professional in ways that were not, I want to say jokey, that were not lighthearted all the time. And so he was cracking jokes and making reference to things that were at times inappropriate, and we certainly coached him to not do those things. But adults, humans, we make our own decisions, right? We also have a firm attendance policy so that we make sure that folks can be as successful as possible during this accelerated training. And he actually expended his absences during the last week of training. So, you really have to take this opportunity seriously and do your best. There's one element of our student position description that I think helps our students be successful, and that is an openness to change. So if someone gives you feedback, or if you make some observation about yourself and how you can be more successful, take it seriously and make some changes from there. You've experienced it, so have I. We've had folks come through who are a little bit rigid and aren't ready at this moment to make those changes that are necessary. And we find that those who are willing to make changes that are necessary, those are the folks who can excel.
Yes, I know in the program we do lots of efforts, we make lots of efforts to make sure that those students who may not have that professional personality right there, we help them within those 8 weeks, and also we hope that through the alumni organization to help them more improve their soft skills. The challenge I have seen in the class sometimes is some students may not be able to see the importance of these things. They are still influenced by their peers. They use the same kind of personalities that helped them to succeed somewhere here and in the corporate world. Now, when somebody makes a transition to the corporate world, one of the challenges we face is, if we never been in the corporate world, it has a culture.
Right.
So even if you are a good person, even if your intentions, your jokes, and so on are great, and you are a great person. But how can you adapt into a new corporate culture, and if necessary, make some changes? Even those changes may not be that bad. For example, I find some people making jokes. That's okay when it is one-on-one, because I like that kind of people. They make your life easy. But in a corporate environment, using those kind of language and jokes may not be appropriate, because we have diverse team members, bosses, colleagues, and so on. So that may not go well with that person, and that may even cause some trouble with that person's team player ability. So let's a little bit go that direction, because some people think, yeah, I'm okay. My friends like me, my colleagues, my families, they like me. This personality, it could be, like the way I greet people. It could be the way I make eye contact, and so on. We may not pay those kind of attentions, but they may be misinterpreted in a particular culture.
Absolutely. You said the key word.
Yeah.
You said the key word, which is culture.
Yeah.
We had an alum who came back and spoke to our current students at the time, who talked about it as a code, professionalism. And if you think about it, culture oftentimes operates as a code as well, right? Where it's unwritten, although our curriculum is written, but it's unwritten, and the expectation is still there.
Yeah.
We talk to our students I talk to my students every Friday about the importance of recognizing that whether or not you think someone is paying attention, or whether or not you feel like you're on, you have to show your most professional self at all times in a work environment. Even during days where a person is going to interview, I coach students to really start getting into a mind frame of an interview the day of an interview. That means for someone like myself, if I'm used to talking to myself all the time, which I am, I talk to myself when I'm just going about my day. When I leave my house, I don't talk to myself because that could be misinterpreted.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
That could easily be misinterpreted. And essentially that's what professionalism requires at times, is that we figure out what are the ways that we can communicate that are going to be most accessible. So whether that's going to be accessible to, as you mentioned, my supervisors, my colleagues, my customers, my clients, right, who might have a very different culture than I do. How can I make sure that we're able to communicate effectively? So it's a challenge to make sure that folks have an understanding of the importance of that culture of professionalism. But we do a good job, I like to think, and we've heard from our graduates, that we do a good job of conveying that importance and sharing some of the nuances. I really see our kind of work oftentimes as being gatekeepers. So we're these bearers of all this information that can either help folks advance, or if we keep this information to ourselves, they'll be stuck, right?
Yep.
There may be other ways that people can get this information. I hope they access it one way or another, but ultimately we're gatekeepers. And so I really look at my role as a career development and professionalism trainer as sharing information so that people can make the best choices for themselves.
Yeah, even if you give them, and also, I provide soft skill trainings to NIH mid-level managers. Right. I call myself a soft skill workshop trainer for hardcore science and technology individuals. So I have been in core, hardcore sciences like, veterinary medicine and technology like IT. I have been providing technical skills, at the same time also providing soft skills. Even if, we provide these skills to our students' audience, the challenge is our students and our audience should make intentional efforts. You mentioned about, use self-talk. I do that. When I walk, I think. I inside my, my room, I sometimes talk to my mirror. If I have a presentation, I talk to my mirror to just, assuming that I'm talking to my audience. I'm preparing. I'm rehearsing. I cannot, have that liberty when I interact with people in public. People may think I'm crazy if I self-talk.
Right.
So people should make, intentional efforts. For example, my accent. I'm from Ethiopia. Ethiopians, they don't have any trouble to understand my accent when I speak English. But I'm providing trainings to people from diverse cultures, Americans whose English is first language. I cannot become a native speaker, but I should make efforts by modifying my accent, by acquiring the American accent so that they may understand me. So what I'm doing is I'm putting effort, because I cannot really develop, because the hard skill, the technical skill, I can make somebody ready for A+ certification or project management certification maybe within 8 weeks or 5 weeks if possible. But I cannot make somebody ready, soft skill, within those weeks.
Right.
What we do is we sow seed and hope that they will make intentional efforts, because developing and acquiring and mastering soft skill takes years. That's why every day I go online. Today, for example, I have programs. There are some words I want to rehearse. I want to pronounce them the American way. I was reading news, for example, 30 minutes ago. I pronounce maybe 10, 15 words that I know how to pronounce, but I want to make sure that they are pronounced in the right way. I go to YouTube and do it. Why I'm doing that? Because I'm improving my skill of pronunciation. I want people to understand what I'm saying. Otherwise, what's the meaning of me just training or speaking if people don't understand me? Here is a challenge for some people. They think changing or modifying their accent is like betraying their culture, betraying their root. It is not for me, because I know my root, I know my culture. I'm an Ethiopian. I'm proud of that. But as I work with other people, modifying or acquiring the accent of the people that I serve is humility. That's about them, not about me. Still, I can keep my culture and modify my communication skill to better fit to my environment. So what do you tell to the people who are not making intentional efforts to develop? Because they may think, if I just listen to Griffin for 30 minutes, I'll be okay. If I just listen easy for 1 hour about, for example, communication strategy, I'll be fine. That's not the case. So tell us a little bit more on that one.
If only it were, right? If only we could just convey all of this knowledge and people would change their habits automatically. It is about changing habits and making an intentional choice every single day. We've had other students who were making similar choices, whether that's around culture or assimilation culture more broadly speaking, or it's about just how people interact with each other. If an individual chooses to not make any change, they won't be successful.
No way.
No one has ever been successful by doing the same thing that they've always done. We have 6 core values that guide our students through career development. The first of them is ambition. You really have to be driven if you want to be successful in any career, but certainly in technology, where it is so competitive. The field, the technology that it's involved in the work is always changing. The way that I've looked at that core value in my own life is I look at it as continuous improvement, continuous learning. But for some people, it might look like ambition, so it looks like drive. For our students, I tell students on a regular basis, and I coach them to figure out those experiences that they've already had where they demonstrated their ambition, where they already were willing to make some change, whether it was a big change or a small change. I coach them to figure out what were those experiences where I was able to do more than I expected, right? Because usually for most of us, if we've exceeded our own expectations, we've been flexible, right? We've had to accommodate some requirements, make some changes that maybe we didn't want to make, but it was just in the way. It was an obstacle on the way to our end destination. So we really do spend some time focusing on long-term goals, and then also on understanding what a person's strengths are coming into the training, what they want to use sort of as a guide moving forward. So I try to take a positive approach to looking at all of the work with the students. I know we've spoken about your choices around your accent, and I fully support you and anyone else who makes that same decision. We all have to make these choices, right? And they're not easy choices to make. So I want to make sure that students can tap into the things that help them be strongest, most successful, make them feel good about themselves so that they can be as successful as they can.
Maybe some of our audience are watching us, and some of them, they may want to come to your organization and benefit. So would you please tell us some of the offerings and what kind of qualities are you looking from those people?
Sure. So we have a number of training opportunities across our sites in the country. The sites that we offer, the training track that we offer in the DC metropolitan area and the National Capital Region is called IT Support. So the IT Support training includes A+ certification preparation, it includes career development and job placement assistance. And for anyone who's interested in applying for training through Per Scholas, you can go to our website, which is perscholas.org. We also have a phone number to call, 301-557-9200. And we have opportunities throughout the year. So we offer 4 classes throughout the year, I should say 4 sessions of the IT support training. We're also in the process of launching a cyber training, so a cybersecurity training, which we'll be offering initially to veterans, and then we'll be offering to more generally to the public beyond that. But essentially, we want to make sure that folks have the skills that are required for IT positions in this region. So that means help desk, that means customer service, desktop support, any position combining customer service backgrounds and technical skills and knowledge. It also means cyber. Cyber is huge in the DC metropolitan area. So we want to make sure that folks are prepared for the opportunities that are in this area. I would add also, AZ, that in terms of the skills that make a person very qualified, there are 3 things. The first thing I mentioned already, which is passion for technology, whether that's being your family IT person, being a tinkerer, sort of tinkering with any electronics or computers or devices that you can get your hands on, taking one class, even if you weren't able to pay for a full degree, right, or you weren't able to complete school for whatever reason, making some demonstrated effort to explore your passion in technology is really important to us. The second thing is customer service, people skills, which we've talked about. That's where the soft skills training comes in. And the last thing is motivation and drive. So you have to be driven to be successful in technology, but also in this training, you really have to tap into your goals. I mentioned that it's accelerated before, and so what a lot of our students come up against is this moment in training where their excitement has ended, where maybe they're thinking about their long-term goals, but in the moment, it's not necessarily fun anymore. They're studying for 2 hours, 3 hours each day outside of training. They're making sure that they're working on their resume, they're brushing up on their interviewing skills to be prepared for what comes next. So maybe it's not as fun as it was, or fun in the same ways that it was initially in training, but you have to tap into that long-term goal. So it's really about perseverance as well, and motivation to make sure that you can be successful in reaching your goals.
I like those 3 qualities, passion, customer service, and motivation.
Absolutely.
I have seen inside the class, sometimes we may have some students who never had any IT experience at all. But I know that I see passion in them, personal skills, soft skills. And also I see their motivations. Every day they are passionate, they ask, they want to learn, and so on. I know that those kind of individuals not only succeed and finish that tight schedule and get certified, but also they're going to be successful in the IT field. So these are keys for people to come and be successful in your organization, and also in the IT profession.
Right. And it's interesting too, because those are things that we cannot give a person. We can tell them information about professionalism and what's seen as appropriate or not, or how you can sort of stand out in all the right ways. But we can't give a person passion for technology. We can't give a person motivation or drive. That's something that has to come from inside that person. I know that you're very capable of sort of infusing or souping up a person's passion for technology as a skilled trainer. But we can't make a person take an interest in technology. They have to have that coming in.
Yes, otherwise they couldn't be able to succeed, because it's a very tight 8 weeks program where you're going to be trained technically and also career development wise, and you should be ready to take A+ certification and pass.
Exactly.
Think about it, if you don't have IT background, without passion, without drive and motivation, continuous motivation, you cannot be successful.
Absolutely.
So that's key. Would you please share with us some of the successes, achievements that you have achieved so far?
Sure, absolutely. So at this point, we've had over 105, I should say over 100, we've had 105 graduates of our training, our IT support training. And one of the individuals who came through training has a really compelling story. Her name is Crystal, and she came to training. She was actually living close to our site, and so she came to training, and when she interviewed for admission, she talked to me about how she'd been looking for a job recently and had a very difficult time finding something that would present her with a lot of opportunities. She also had a young child. I think her baby at the time was maybe a year old or so, and so she wanted to find an opportunity that would carry her forward, not just a short-term job opportunity. When we were doing that interview for admission, she told me that she had worked at the highest volume of customers, the Starbucks that served the highest volume of customers in the country. And I thought, how is that even possible? And she talked to me a little bit about it. She was actually working at the Starbucks that served the FBI headquarters.
Wow.
And so she was a little bit, not wanting to tell me much more detail, but she did talk to me about these individuals who really needed their caffeine to get their work done. And so she, naturally, if you think about customer service skills and what it's like to work day in and day out with people who are not necessarily the most friendly customers, but they maybe need some, maybe they are friendly, but maybe they have an urgent need, right?
Yeah.
So she had developed skills for communication, problem solving, creativity, really phenomenal skills for any job, but she had a passion for technology. She'd also been attending school at the University of District of Columbia, and she wanted to finish her degree, but she still needed to be able to pay for school. So it was this kind of catch-22, school to be able to get a better job, work to be able to pay for school. So she was at this moment where she was kind of stuck. She came through training, and she was phenomenal in class. She was always positive. She was really focused in her work, but also focused in supporting her classmates. True team player. She graduated from training. She got A+ certified, and she was able to find a job, but it was not an easy task because she didn't have any IT background before coming to Per Scholas. So she really had to pound the pavement and had to work hard to secure a job opportunity. She ended up getting a job opportunity that didn't require her to go through any hiring process. Essentially, she was contacted by a recruiter who said, they want to hire folks, they need you to start as soon as possible. She started, and from there she was able to secure a full-time help desk position.
Wow.
Yeah, and she really demonstrated one of the things that I like to emphasize with our students, which is that you have value. You have skills, you have talents, maybe you haven't used them in an IT background or in an IT position, but everyone who's coming through our training has something to offer to employers, and it's a matter of tapping into that. For her, it was motivation, a passion for technology. It was this positivity, this beaming positivity that really helped her to be successful. There's another student who I want to tell you about as well, GT, Gemechis.
Gemechis,
yes.
Yeah. Many Ethiopians are familiar with this name.
Yes. So he actually came to Per Scholas after having developed a foundation of work experience in the United States. So he'd come to the United States, he'd been a researcher in the past, and he really developed this love for Excel and data, and so he wanted to work as a database administrator, but he didn't have any education or IT experience in the United States. And so he actually came through training, he got certified. He was also very positive in training. He was somewhat, I would say, subdued. He wasn't outgoing and boisterous in his personality, but always very respectful, always very focused on his goal. And that showed when he was searching for jobs. So essentially what ended up happening was he had been applying for jobs, doing his due diligence in seeking opportunities. And there was one job opportunity that he really wanted. It was a database administrative position. And it was with a company he was excited about. And he tried to apply, but he ran into some technical difficulties when he was submitting his application. And so he called the company just to make sure that his application had gone through. It just so happened that at that moment, the power had gone out in the building, their facility. And so the person who he reached was actually the president of the company.
Wow.
His call went straight through past, whatever receptionist or administrative staff might have received the phone call, went straight to the president, whose phone line just happened to still be working. So he talked to the president about this opportunity and what he was trying to do. The president was very gracious and actually realized that Gemechis needed this particular set of skills. There was a particular software that he didn't have experience with. And so the president actually helped him access a free version of that so that he could develop some skills around that. So very generous and very kind of serendipitous opportunity as well. And he was ready for that. People say that being successful is oftentimes about showing up, right?
80% of the time just showing up.
I knew you would know the number.
Yes.
So it's really about being prepared when that opportunity presents itself. And he was prepared. So he studied up, he brushed up on that software. When he was interviewed, so he did secure an interview through that phone call. When he interviewed, he was ready to take that test. He did very well. And then he actually, I think it's that he left their facility, but he had written a handwritten thank you note, right?
Wow.
Going above and beyond. So he went back a couple of days later to drop off this handwritten thank you note. And they said, well, we were considering giving you a second interview. You're here already. Why don't we just interview you again? Come on. You can't write this stuff.
So many chances like
it was.
that,
It was such serendipity and such opportunity, right, that he was just really prepared
for.
He
took motivation, drive.
Exactly.
That took him there, trying.
Exactly.
Many people miss this kind of opportunities just because they don't want to try. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't take, millions of dollars if you just pick and call or
Right.
just give, thank you later. But
Absolutely.
he did that, and the results.
Right. He got the job.
Yes,
He got the
exactly. So these are, I know there are so many great stories. I know because I'm very close to the organization. I know there are so many stories, inspiring stories. You just shared 2 of those stories. Right now, I brought you here, and we planned this mainly to reach out to Ethiopians to see that there are some Ethiopians successfully. I trained 4 batches. Since May 2014, there is at least 1 Ethiopian, even last time 2 Ethiopians. I always wonder why we don't have many Ethiopians, because there are thousands of Ethiopians in the DC metro area, and I know that if they dedicate their time, for example, for 8 weeks, they could make a career shift. They, so many of our audience, if they're not, for example, interested with this opportunity, they know someone. Sure. Their children or their colleagues, their relatives, and so on. So I'm encouraging them with the story that you told us, the Gammachis's story. They should be able, to reach out to people who may benefit from this program. Of course, I'm sure that many people from other cultures in the DC metro area also watching our discussion. Our target, our goal is also to attract those people in the DC metro area, Americans, immigrants, to use and tap into this opportunity. You don't find this kind of programs. I know, as an IT person, I know some programs. First of all, they don't have this soft skills and hard skills training. Second of all, they're not free.
Right.
Your program is free as far as people have those, qualities, as far as they dedicate 8 weeks, and as far as they abide with the enrollment agreements in terms of coming on time, dressing professionally, and be, as the person, a student who is dedicated to study and pass the exam, they could be able to use this opportunity for free. There is no program like that I know. So I want our audience, if they are interested, to try it. If they're not interested, at least refer someone. So let's our community, let's our colleagues and friends benefit from this program. And also, you may be a person who would like to support, sponsor, and help this kind of programs. Very helpful to many communities. So you can donate, you can, hire. I know, yes, hire from this organization. I know some of my audience who have companies, even companies that hire IT professionals. So we invite people to partner with you in terms of supporting you materially, financially, hiring the people, and so on. And also attend the, some of the events that you arrange by going to perscholas.org. My next question is, what makes this program different than other similar programs?
Sure.
A couple of differences.
Sure, you named a couple. So one is that the training is tuition free. So we recognize that any experience essentially leaving your house, it's probably going to require some resources, some funds.
Yeah.
So certainly our students are responsible for their own professional, their transportation to and from training, but the full cost of training is invested by Per Scholas and our supporters. So we make it possible for folks to really just focus on the training itself. How am I going to get to training? How can I be focused in training? And how can I be successful after training? Another difference for Per Scholas is that we provide training for anyone who lives within 70 miles of downtown Silver Spring. So that's where we're located. And we're looking for folks not just in our county, not just in Montgomery County, although certainly we've had a number of students from Montgomery County we want to continue to, not just in Maryland, not just in the district or Virginia. A lot of other training providers, particularly those that are nonprofits, are focused on one particular area, or community colleges. They're focused on people who are in their sort of jurisdiction, right?
Yeah.
Per Scholas is different because we're wide open. We want to make sure that folks within our region are seeing this opportunity as a way that they can support themselves and their families ultimately, and their communities ultimately. Another difference is that we have a really diverse student population, not just in terms of race or ethnicity, but we also are pushing to make sure that women have a more prominent role in technology as well. You and I both know technology is a highly competitive field, and it's not very diverse in terms of gender or race or ethnicity. So we're pushing to make sure that in 2016, even more women than ever are a part of the IT world. We also are developing technology training that will help veterans to be able to move back into gainful employment to support themselves and their families and their communities. So we want to make sure that the training is available not just to any one group of people. Another thing that makes Per Scholas different is our age range. So anyone who is 18 or older could be a candidate for Per Scholas. So rather than being focused on, say, youth or focused on older adults, we want to make sure, again, that folks within our community across our diverse subpopulations are able to access great training, great opportunities after training.
By the way, I also know that Per Scholas helps in terms of connecting our students who may not be able to afford professional attire with
Yes.
other organizations that may help our students. And also I know that, I don't know, maybe you already mentioned it, about Per Scholas also place. So I know many programs, they train you, they want you to pass the certification, but
Right.
they stop there. But Per Scholas goes above and beyond in terms of helping our students also to be placed.
Absolutely. So we can't solve the problem of poverty on our own. No
Yeah.
one organization can. And so we work with a number of community-based organizations that provide complementary services. One of those is Professional Attire, an organization called A Wider Circle up in Silver Spring. We work with other organizations that provide mentoring, that provide skills that we don't provide. So we want to make sure that people have all that they need, whether that's clothing, housing, tutoring, food, mental health, adult basic education, any resource that we can connect a person to help them be successful, we'll connect them to that resource. I should clarify, we do our best to support our students. We don't have the capacity, unfortunately, to support everyone, but we do want to work very closely with our students to see that they have what they need to be successful.
I know you mentioned it, but I want you to mention the number one more time. How many people benefited from
Sure.
the capital region so far?
We've had 105 graduates at this point, and we're also starting a class on Monday where we'll have about 20 students who'll start out for our last class in 2015.
What about next year, 2016?
Sure.
How many people are you planning to recruit? And
our goal is always to have as many students come through training as is possible. So our capacity limits us some. Our admissions process is rigorous, but my hope is that we'll have another 20, 25 students in our next class, and we have about 4 classes each year. So looking forward to working with a number of community members who are looking to move into IT next year.
let's talk a little bit about endurance. This kind of program requires people to have perseverance. Tell us about the importance of perseverance in terms of succeeding in this program, also being successful in the IT industry.
Well,
do you have any examples?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. There's a gentleman who worked with us named Josh. He was in, I believe, our second or third class. And he had worked with lawyers on IT support. So he'd actually come through another program where he was able to get college credit and able to get some basic IT skills. But he wasn't able to finish his college degree, and he wasn't able to find a job. So he kept running up against these barriers. He just kept pushing. He was positive, he kept a positive attitude, and kept reconnecting with his goal. And so he actually was able to secure a job. He's working on a help desk now with an IT firm. But I remember working with him in particular on his cover letter, and he came to me and he said, "Griffin, I know even though I've had thorough training on how to interview and how to write cover letters, it's a struggle, it's hard." And it's true. For most people, these are not skills that come naturally. These are things that you have to develop as skills, right?
Yes.
So in terms of his cover letter, he said, "I really just don't want to do one." And, you know, I tell students, all of my students, you have to write a cover letter. It's these small things that set yourself apart, right?
Yeah.
So you want to make yourself stand out in all the best ways. Cover letter is just one of those ways to stand out. And so we sat down and we really worked more closely together on a cover letter for him. So he told me about a position he'd applied for. He wanted to apply for in the past, but he actually missed the opportunity to apply. So he said, if I had the chance to apply for that job again, I would want to be prepared for it this time. And so we put together a sort of T chart a table that listed all that they were looking for and all that he had to offer, made sure that he was a good fit for that opportunity first. We drafted a cover letter together, and he said, at some point, he said, you know, you're really good at this. And I said, Josh, you're giving me
a trainer,
but you're giving me all the material, right? So he was willing to put himself out there and sit down and say, I'm going to take 20 minutes to really write out what qualifies me for this specific job. A lot of people have never done that before. And so even though it was hard, even though it was a little bit uncomfortable for him, certainly outside of his comfort zone, he was able to push through, wrote a cover letter that was really phenomenal, I think, and then was able to secure this job. It took him some time still, but he kept pushing, he kept applying. He ended up getting some temporary jobs along the way so that he could continue to build up his experience. So by the time he got his full-time position, he'd had a collective more than 6 months, maybe even more than a year of IT experience to contribute to his being more qualified for that opportunity he really wanted. And that happens all the time with our students.
Exactly. I have seen, our students, many of them, they didn't know how to write a professional cover letter, a resume, and you helped them, the cover letter, resume. These things are tough to do it you individually because you have the experience, you know how to do it, you're a professional. Getting that kind of mentoring and support is something that many people may not find somewhere else unless you pay, of course, and expensively. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
But at the end of the day, they have to show some endurance, perseverance, effort.
The way that I describe it during our information sessions for admission is that we can meet your level of drive. If your level of drive is up here, we will meet you up here. If your level of drive is down here, we're going to meet you down here, right? Because we do always have students whose drive is here and across the range, right, for various reasons. So there's no judgment involved. It's just that in terms of seeing folks be successful, we want to see your drive wherever it is, and we will meet you there. So we do provide a high level of support, and we also provide information. Theoretically, a person could go online, could read books, could watch videos to learn how to do the things that happen in training, that students develop in terms of their skills during training. But it really makes a difference to have someone there who can guide you through the process, who you can ask questions of, right? Who can essentially teach you how to fish. So oftentimes, Josh, actually, the student who I mentioned before, graduate who I mentioned before, he would send emails and say, how do I do this? Or how can I find this information? And I would tell him directly first how he could find that information, and then how I knew the answer. Because I don't want a person to be dependent on us, to have to come to us for everything, right? I do want to make sure that folks have the skills they need to be able to seek out what they want and not have to rely on other people. So perseverance is essential, and that drive to be successful, but also to do the work, put in the work and the effort to be successful is essential.
And also we help them in the classroom. That's what you did, rather than answering his question, sometimes redirecting him. I do the same inside the class. Sometimes they ask me a question, I don't respond to them. Maybe I ask them, okay, go ahead, find the answer and present to the class. They hate it initially because they want me to just answer it right there. But for me, I know that they are the to-go-to person in their organization after a couple of weeks. So I want them to know how to go and find about an answer, because in the future, I'm not there. They are the one. They should know where to go. Sometimes they ask me a question. I say, okay, go to the command line, type and get the answer and tell me. So we intentionally push our students reasonably to develop that resilience and to develop that endurance and learn where to get answers and where to go and find solutions. That's how we train them, and I believe that when they go out there, they know how to endure, because the IT profession, as you mentioned very excellently, that it's a competitive industry, and at the same time, every time new technology, new application, it pushes you. Unless you have that endurance, unless you have that immunity where you cope up with the time, with the challenge, you cannot really succeed and achieve great things in the IT profession.
It's true. I have a friend who's a software developer, and he left the country to visit family outside of the country for about 9 months a couple of years ago. And during that time, cloud computing exploded. And so his job looked very different. Having the difference between working and having your applications, having your data stored locally on your own system or on your own network versus in the cloud, it made his job look almost completely different, right? So it's years later, and in a sense, he's still catching up, right? Because he missed that development. So in
Yeah.
IT, you do have to keep up with the technology
Yes.
because it affects your job much more quickly.
Exactly. It's also a disservice to your organization if you are not catching up.
Right.
Let's say you are a cybersecurity professional. If you're not updating, you know, your enemies, your rivals
Right.
out there, they're always finding a way how to crack, how to
Right.
break into your system.
Right.
So you have to update yourself, be ahead of your competitors, ahead of your challengers, so that you serve your organization with excellence. So that requires you to update yourself, be a person of passion and excellence, and read, always update yourself. And that we tell them inside the class, and that's what we hope from our students. So far, the results that we hear from our partners is they love our students. So that's great. So I want our audience, do you have anything to say before we conclude?
Please.
You're done?
Well, I'll take any other extra opportunity you'll give me. So.
Yeah. If you have anything you would like to say, because you can also tell them how they can apply. For
Sure.
example, when is the next deadline? Because I want as many audience of our community to benefit from this system. It's free.
Sure.
It's 8 weeks. They can save money or borrow money for 8 weeks from someone and just finish this program and then make a shift. Because I have so many people that I know, they don't like their jobs.
Right.
They complain that they're not paid well,
Sure.
but they're not taking action. Maybe
Right.
partly because they don't have the information. Today we gave them one of the solutions, one of the options.
So along the lines, I want to say first, along the lines of needing to make some changes to be able to get to a development, right? We've had our students on average go from $7,000 of income a year to $30,000.
Wow.
That is over a
Wow.
400% improvement, right? So, and that's the success of most of our students, is that they see success that multiplies, right? Whether that's for them as individuals, for them and their classmates, and it's also a support network. So there's the hard facts, right? The technical training, career development, and job placement assistance. There's the fact that we work with a number of employer partners who are eager to hire our graduates. But there's also the success stories. Our students who've been able to secure new opportunities for themselves, feel a little bit more stable, right? Living in their home and being able to pay their bills. But we also just want to make sure that people are, as you said, not just stopping, making sure they're continuing to tap into their own drive, their own motivation, and using their best skills and talents to move them forward. So we do have 4 classes I mentioned before. We have 4 classes that will start next year. The next class that's coming up after this one starting on Monday starts February 1st. So beyond that, we'll have 4 classes, and we haven't actually built out the calendar at this point, but we'll have them roughly quarterly.
Okay.
And so the deadline is always about 3 weeks before the class starts. I always tell people, apply.
Yeah.
We have rolling admissions, so if you want to be considered for the next class, go ahead and apply. You can go to our website to do so at perscholas.org. And then once you've applied, we'll follow up with you to take you through the admissions process. And of course, anytime folks have questions, they can always check our website, give us a call. We can answer any questions they have.
Would you please spell it out? Because some
absolutely.
people, www.
Sure.
dot.
I can definitely do that.
Yeah.
So Per Scholas' website is Per Scholas, P as in Paul, E-R, S as in Sam, CHOLAS as in Sam.org. And I don't think you need the www. You can just
No. We're going to also give them
perscholas.org.
the, on our screen, we're going to
great.
give them the website, but I just want to make sure
Sure.
that people who may not be able to get that
Okay.
could be able to get from you. So I
Sure.
know that PERSCHOLAS.org.
Yes.
Griffin, that's exciting, and I know that many of our community members may join in the future. More, you have been serving our community. So far, we benefited from that, and we would like to benefit more. And also, we would like to partner. There may be some organizations that works in the field of IT, people that hire IT professionals, and also there are people who want to donate and support your kind of, or volunteer. You have so many events, and there are many things to volunteer. So I appreciate what you have been doing to our community and at large, to the DC metro area. Thanks also for your professionalism, your support, the skills that you have developed, in our students. That's why they have been successful, not only with the technical skill, but the softer skill. So I appreciate that. I admire that. Thanks for coming, and I look forward also to have another conversation on another topic. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Dear our viewers, this is my hope that you have gained so many informations. If you are a technical person, a technology person, not only you need to excel in terms of your technical skills, but also in your soft skills, your emotional intelligence, communication, team playing, and so on and so forth. Today we discussed about the most important aspects of your career, developing your soft skills. We also talked about some opportunities you may benefit from Per Scholas. If you know someone, if you are interested, or at least if you know someone, redirect them to Per Scholas so that they may benefit from this wonderful program that has benefited many of our community members, Ethiopians. Thanks for watching.